I must emphasize that flexible arrangements do not equate to work from home only. There is a variety of flexible work arrangements that employers can adopt depending on the industry context and the specific job role, while still maintaining productivity and ensuring that business needs are met. For instance, those in sectors and jobs where the work must be done on site may not be able to work from home, but employers can still explore options such as flexi-time and flexi-load. To be clear, the formal process for requesting flexible work arrangements as recommended in the guidelines will be useful mainly for organizations that do not have any process yet for their employees to request for flexible work arrangements. Where there is an existing process, whether formal or informal, and is working well for both employers and employees, the employer should use the process stipulated by the company to request for flexible work arrangements. What is most important is for the employees and employers to be able to discuss and land on arrangements that address their respective needs and constraints and maintain harmonious working relationships.
Why is there this need to have guidelines to make it mandatory for companies to consider such requests from employees? So the feedback I have is that many companies have told me that this is making it more onerous for a large company with many staff and for their HR team to have to deal with so many requests, especially for the staff that they feel that are on the borderline that they may not want to keep. So are we pushing the companies to say, let's get rid of the less performing staff? And at the end of the day, my concern is whether this will make Singapore a less attractive place for companies to come to invest in if they feel that the manpower policies are too onerous on the companies.
Flexible work arrangements also does not mean work less. Flexible work arrangements also does not mean reduced productivity. And the final one, the tripartite guidelines on flexible work arrangements, which take effect from 1st December, does not mean that come December, every workplace must have flexible work arrangements. So let's be clear up front. These guidelines are meant to help employers manage also the expectations of the employees. We know that coming out of COVID, there are some employees continually asking their employers and their supervisors, why can't they continue to work from home? And some of the employers find it quite troubling and difficult to manage the expectations of the employees. At the same time, we also hear anecdotal feedback from some employees that their employers are not receptive at all and not even responding to their requests for flexible work arrangements. So, to make sure workplaces continue to be productive and have harmonious workplace relationships, these guidelines actually are for both parties, as what Honourable Member Mr. Biow Chuan suggested, to have a process to negotiate and also to discuss what works for the individual, what works for the team, the business, and the clients. There is no intention whatsoever for these guidelines to intervene on how companies should decide on the flexible work arrangement requests coming from the employees, as long as the employers apply a proper process in evaluating and responding to the flexible work arrangement requests. And just for information, there are also many calls from the members of the House, some of you might remember, for legislation for right to request, which we have seen in quite a few other countries. Instead of going the way of the legislation, the tripartite partners, after a lot of consultation with various groups, felt that legislation would not be helpful. Instead, guidelines to guide the conversation and implementation of flexible work arrangement requests would be more practical and a balanced approach. And we hope that employers and employees will make win-win outcomes out of these guidelines.